Hello, my dear friend. Many people believe that the key to persuasion lies in the ability to speak effectively. While this is partially true, there is one crucial aspect that is often overlooked: silence. At times, speaking less can be far more impactful and functional than eloquent or effective speech. In this video, I want to discuss how silence and speaking sparingly can be powerful tools. I would even describe speaking less and knowing when to remain silent as a subtle, yet innocent, form of manipulation. When and where does silence benefit us? And how does it strengthen our position? Fundamentally, in many interpersonal relationships, when you're speaking, you're often in the mindset of proving something to the other party. However, in such scenarios, the other person may not feel your presence because you are the one doing all the talking. You think, the better I explain this topic, the more the other person will understand and be impressed by me. You may believe that the key to influence lies in how well you articulate your points. However, in real relationships, this is rarely the case. What truly influences and impacts the other person if I were in front of you is this: how valued do I feel in this communication? How much am I being listened to? And how seriously am I being taken? You might think, but I do take you seriously. I do care about you. Unfortunately, that assurance doesn't carry much weight in practice. Only when you remain silent and give the other person. Individuals who speak excessively often end up discussing things they shouldn't, revealing aspects of themselves they should keep private. When you speak on subjects in which you are not well versed, the other person can see through this and might think, this person is shallow and uninformed. At that point, you must realize that excessive talking diminishes your image in the eyes of others. Conversely, when you choose to speak less and often remain silent, people tend to assume that what they do not see is full of substance. Therefore, when shaping your personal image, avoid speaking about matters you're unfamiliar with. Do not feel compelled to offer opinions on every subject. That quiet, reserved image can be incredibly powerful. As I mentioned earlier, if you avoid speaking unnecessarily, people are more likely to perceive you as mysterious, charismatic, and stronger. Additionally, when you speak less or remain silent, others are more inclined to view you as a wise individual. If you explore further, you'll find documentaries about cults, for instance, on Netflix. In one of these documentaries, a young man practices weekly periods of silence, sometimes not leaving his room for days. Since I was watching the film, I could interpret his expressions correctly and observed that he was not particularly mature and was still chasing his desires. But if you were in his presence and saw him choosing not to speak, isolating himself, remaining silent, and just listening with a faint smile as you excitedly explain things to him, you might soon begin to perceive him as incredibly wise, profound, and perhaps even possessing supernatural abilities. Of course, our goal is not to create such an illusion. However, if your aim is to influence others and project an image of wisdom, choosing to speak less and occasionally offering only a smile can be very effective. There is a concept known as therapist silence, which is a technique used to encourage the other person to reveal more about themselves and delve deeper into their thoughts. Many people discuss the importance of silence, yet when they experience it directly, they become uncomfortable. Interestingly, almost everyone feels this discomfort. So, where is therapeutic silence apply? Imagine a scenario where a patient is recounting a deeply emotional, traumatic event. Although the incident is significant, the patient presents it as something trivial. The psychiatrist asks, "How did this event affect you?" And the patient replies that it had no effect. At this point, the psychiatrist remains silent, allowing the silence to linger. 5 seconds pass, 10 seconds, then 15, 30 seconds, and soon discomfort sets in. The patient, sensing the psychiatrist's silence, begins to feel that more must be said and starts sharing more. In this way, the psychiatrist gains access to emotio. Additionally, people who talk extensively about their goals and dreams often tend to take little action. Is it that they talk a lot because they act little, or do they act little because they talk too much? I believe it's the latter. By talking excessively about their plans, they experience a sense of excitement and satisfaction, which diminishes their motivation to take the necessary steps to achieve those goals. Thus, it can be said that those who speak less about their objectives and aspirations tend to be more successful in taking real action. For this reason, you should consider speaking less or remaining silent about your goals and dreams. This approach can be beneficial. Another effective use of silence is when responding to a question. Let's say someone asks you a question and you're not certain that your answer will leave a strong impression. In such cases, if you maintain eye contact, hold a confident posture, and take a 15-second pause before answering with, "Here's what I think," your response will be perceived as much more thoughtful and valuable than if you had responded immediately. Therefore, incorporating a 15-second pause before responding can be an effective tool early on. When attempting to influence others, it is often the case that the fewer words you use, the more seriously you are taken. The more you feel the need to explain yourself, the less value the other person places on your words. Therefore, you must learn to be economical with your words when expressing yourself. The fewer words you use, and the less you waste them, the more the other person will value both your words and your personality. Thank you for taking the time to listen. My friend, take care of yourself, and until next time.